Ray was in his 60s, tall, weathered, still strong in his own way. He'd seen some things, fought some quiet battles. But that night, something inside him went quiet. No rise, no rush, just stillness. And in that stillness, something deeper broke loose. Not his body, his confidence. His heart thudded like a warning bell. His thoughts spiraled. Not now, not with her. And then came the voice, "You're not a man anymore." What he didn't know yet was that this moment, this quiet, unexpected pause, it wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of everything that matters. The room was soft-lit, warm with her laughter, sheets tangled, skin to skin. She kissed his neck, slow and trusting. Her fingers traced down his chest, and that's when it happened. Nothing, no response. His body, silent, no rise, no rush, just stillness. The heat between them shifted, from desire to confusion. She didn't pull away. But he did, just a little. That quiet moment grew heavy. Shame rose up like a wave. He couldn't look her in the eyes. In his head, that voice kept whispering, "You're not a man anymore." But what she gave him in that moment changed everything. Let's get something straight. This isn't just about what your body does or doesn't do. It's not about blood flow pills or magic routines. This moment, it's about what you believe when the lights go low and things don't go the way you hoped. It's about that quiet voice inside, the one that asks, "Am I still enough?" And it's about the other voice, hers, the one you think you understand but probably don't. See, when men hit this wall, most look for shortcuts, fixes, fast answers, but what they miss is the deeper truth behind it all. This isn't about your manhood giving out. It's about what happens in her heart when you freeze, shut down, or disappear. It's not just your ego on the line. It's her sense of worth, her confidence, her safety. And if you don't know how to respond with presence, with calm, with strength, you'll both walk away wounded. So no gimmicks here, no cheap tips, just truth. This is for the man who's ready to lead with emotional power, even in the most vulnerable moment of all. Let me ask you something, man to man. Have you ever had that moment when your body just wouldn't respond the way you wanted? No matter how much you cared, how much you tried, it just didn't happen. If you've been there, drop a 1 in the comments. If you're here to prepare for when that day comes, drop a 2. No shame, no judgment. This space is for men who've lived a little and who are brave enough to talk about the things most guys run from. Let's share some truth. You're not alone. Not even close. Ray lay beside her, his chest rising a little too fast. She was beautiful in that quiet way, the kind that didn't beg for attention. It simply held it. Everything had been flowing naturally. The laughter, the closeness, her hand in his, her lips tracing his jaw, and then it stopped. Not the moment, not her, him, his body, once steady and reliable, felt like an old engine in winter, cranking, trying, but not catching. It was like a fuse that wouldn't light. The spark was there, somewhere, but the fire wouldn't come. Panic crept in. His heart thudded harder, not from excitement, but fear. His thoughts spiraled fast. What's wrong with me? Is this it? Is this who I am now? She's gonna think I'm broken. He tried to hide it, tried to smile, tried to change the subject, hoping she wouldn't notice. But women notice, especially when the silence is louder than the words. She stayed close, her hand still resting on his chest. But Ray felt 1,000 miles away. In that moment, it wasn't just his body that shut down. It was his sense of self, his confidence, his belief that he was still the man he used to be. And that's the part nobody talks about. The real part, when something so small, so quiet, can unravel decades of strength in a single breath. Here's what most men don't realize. This moment, it's common. So common, in fact, it's become a silent rite of passage for men over 50. It's not weakness, it's biology, it's stress, it's life. But in Ray's mind, it felt like the end of something, and the beginning of a fear he didn't know how to name. What he didn't know yet was that this wasn't just his moment of reckoning. It was hers too, because while his mind raced with panic and shame, you think she's judging you, you think she's disappointed, you think she's lying there wondering if you've lost it, if you're broken, if you're not a man anymore. But she's not thinking that. In fact, the moment your body doesn't respond, her first thought isn't about you at all. It's about herself. You see, women are emotional detectives. We pick up on shifts in energy like radar. The moment things go quiet, the moment you pull back, her mind starts racing in ways you'd never expect. Did I do something wrong? Am I not attractive to him anymore? Was it the way I moved? My body? Is he seeing the weight I've gained? Did he notice the scar I try to hide? Even the most confident woman, the kind who walks tall and owns every room, can find herself crumbling inside when a man she cares about suddenly goes silent in bed. Not because of ego, because of worth. Because the bedroom isn't just a place of pleasure, it's a mirror, and when that mirror cracks, she blames herself, even if she doesn't say it. Even if she shrugs it off with a joke or says, "It's okay." She's wondering, why didn't he want me? Was I too much or not enough? Ray didn't know this. Not yet. He thought his silence was protecting her. But silence doesn't protect. It creates distance. And the dangerous thing is, when you don't speak into that moment, when you don't fill that silence with truth, her mind will fill it for you. With fear, with shame, with questions that eat away at her self-esteem. This is the emotional reversal most men never see coming. It's not just your confidence on the line, it's hers. And the way you respond, right then, right there, can either deepen the bond between you or quietly start pulling it apart, because she's not angry at you. She's not even disappointed. She just wants to know she's still wanted, still seen, still beautiful. Not for how perfectly her body performs, but for how deeply you feel her presence. So when that moment happens again, and it will, don't shut down, don't hide, don't pretend it didn't happen. Turn toward her, say something real. Let her see that this doesn't change how you feel, because when a woman feels safe in your presence, even in disappointment, even in vulnerability, she doesn't pull away. She leans in, and that can change everything. But here's the thing most men still miss. Even knowing this, even understanding what she might be feeling, many still respond in the one way that guarantees disconnection. There's one reaction, one reflex, that ruins more connection than any performance issue ever could. Silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that builds a wall brick by brick. Withdrawal. Shutting down. Acting like it didn't matter. Just when it clearly did. Ray almost went there, but someone close to him already had. His old friend Glenn, married 27 years. He loved his wife, no question, but one night his body didn't respond. He panicked, didn't say a word, just rolled over and said he was tired. She asked if something was wrong. He said, "No, just stressed." He meant well. He didn't want her to feel bad, but she felt it anyway. Night after night, the silence grew heavier. No kisses, no teasing, no warmth between the sheets. Eventually, she stopped trying. Months later, she told him the truth. "I didn't care that it happened, but I hated that. You shut me out, and that's the real wound, not the failure, not the awkward moment, but the distance you create by not facing it together." Glenn thought he was protecting her. But what she needed wasn't a wall, it was a hand, a word, some reassurance. He learned too late. So if this happens to you, and it will at some point, don't disappear into the dark. Don't pretend your silence is strength. Say something, anything, even if it's just, "I'm here, I'm with you." That one moment of truth can save a connection that would otherwise slip through your fingers in silence. And if you're wondering what that truth actually sounds like, Ray showed us exactly what it means to respond with honesty and heart. Ray lay still. Her hand was on his chest, waiting, not demanding, just there. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing on his skin, not from her, but from everything he was afraid to say. Then he looked into her eyes and said 5 words that changed everything. "It's not you, I promise." She blinked, then breathed. That's all it took. Not a performance, not a fix, just truth. See, what women need in that moment isn't a miracle recovery. They don't need you to become 25 again. They need presence, reassurance, and leadership. Not the loud kind, but the steady kind. And how do you lead like that? When everything feels like it's falling apart. Start simple. Say something. Not a joke, not a deflection, something real. Try, "I care about you. This doesn't change what I feel. Sometimes this happens and we're okay." It's not about the perfect line. It's about anchoring her, letting her know she's still wanted as she is. Then touch without agenda. Take the pressure off both of you. Hold her. Stroke her hair. Trace your fingertips down her back without thinking about what comes next. Let your body say what your words might not. She doesn't need a performance. She needs to feel safe, because in that safety, her heart opens. And so does yours. Next, lead the energy, not away from the moment, but deeper into it. Say, "Let's just be close right now. This moment still matters to me." You're showing her that intimacy isn't lost. You're proving that your connection is stronger than your ego. And that is rare. Finally, own the moment without shame. You're not broken, you're human. And every man over 50 has been here, or will be. When you lead with calm instead of fear, you invite her into closeness, not confusion. Mature masculinity doesn't hide from discomfort. It holds it, breathes through it, and keeps loving through it. That's the kind of strength she'll never forget. And Ray, that night didn't end in fireworks, but it ended in something deeper. Quiet laughter, soft hands, her falling asleep. On his chest, feeling wanted, held and seen, no pressure, no proving, just presence. And sometimes, that's everything. And here's the twist most men never expect. What if this isn't the moment that ruins everything? What if it's the moment that saves it? Most men see this kind of night as failure, as the beginning of the end. But when you shift your lens, when you stop fighting it and start embracing it, you realize something powerful. This is a gift, a chance to build something deeper than arousal, a kind of trust that can't be faked. An invitation into real intimacy, the kind that lasts, because in that one raw, unguarded moment, you both drop the act. You stop trying to be the man you were, and she sees the man you are, strong, open, still choosing closeness, even without the performance. There's a woman I once met. Her name was Evelyn. She was in her 70s, twice divorced, sharp as ever. She said to me, "I remember one night with a man I truly loved. Things didn't go the way he hoped, but instead of pretending, he stayed. He touched my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, 'This doesn't change anything.' And in that moment, I felt more beautiful than I ever had during the best sex of my life." She paused, smiled softly, and added, "That night stayed with me longer than the men who never struggled at all." Why? Because real connection doesn't happen at your peak. It happens in your pauses, your honesty, your choice to show up fully. Even when it's hard, that's what she'll remember, not whether it happened, but how you handled it. So maybe this isn't the moment that breaks you. Maybe it's the moment that finally brings you closer. And once you've been through that, once she's seen the man behind the myth, you've built a bond that doesn't depend on heat. It thrives on heart. Let me say something straight. To you, from one man to another, you are not broken, you are becoming. This moment you're afraid of, the silence, the stillness, the body that won't respond, it's not a failure. It's a doorway into a deeper version of yourself, the one who's not defined by performance, but by presence. The truth is, real intimacy doesn't begin when everything goes right. It begins when something doesn't. And you stay anyway, when you choose to lead, not with your body, but with your calm, your honesty, your tenderness. That's the power most men never access, but you can, and you're not alone in this. Every man who's lived a little, who's weathered storms, who's loved deeply, has faced this moment. Some run from it, some hide, but the wise ones, they lean in just like Ray did. He didn't fix it that night. His body didn't bounce back like a movie scene, but he stayed. He spoke. He held her like she was the only woman on earth, and in that softness, something new was born. Not performance, but peace, and she leaned into him, not because he was perfect, but because he was real. That's what lasts. That's what matters. So remember this. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to be present. You're not less of a man. You're more of one than you've ever been.